If you've just got 10 minutes for some quick drawing practice in a day, then this little silver milk jug is a great subject to draw. It's challenging in a number of ways, which is what we want in a drawing exercise. We want something that will push us, something that's not going to be obvious or super straightforward to do, but because it's only a 10-minute exercise, we won't get precious about it, we won't get all hung up about it. We'll just have a good, quick gestural attempt at it and then see how we go. And if we're not happy with how we've gone, we can do the same exercise the next day. Or if we've got time, we can do it twice in a row. That's the great thing about these short exercises. We're not thinking of them as being artworks. And therefore, we're free to experiment, to be bold, particularly when we're drawing freehand in ink. And, well, every line's going to be there at the end. So we want to develop a style and a confidence that will let us make lines, explore where lines need to be as accurately as possible in our technique. Now, while this is a relatively simple shape to look at, it does have its challenges to draw. It's not straight up and down, it tapers in at the top, and the sides have these panels that come out with rounded corners. And all of those things add a further degree of complexity on complexity. And of course, because the jug is tilted away from us slightly, there is a perspective distortion that we need to take into account as well. Now, probably for most of us, the most challenging part of this is going to be this handle. And it's even more challenging for me because with my video setup, I can't turn my paper and my hand is cramped with two lights immediately to my right, and so it can get a bit awkward here. But I would recommend that doing this as a drawing exercise, that when you have curves such as in this handle, you always turn your paper so that the curve is in the most natural, easy to do direction. For the hand in which you hold your pen and your otherwise technique, you'll notice that I did do some dots, did some indication of lines, and then I tried to visualize the curve of the handle. I marked where I wanted it to end before I started. Always find your end point before you start a line. It really helps position not just your thinking and where the line's going to go, but also the momentum of the line that you draw, the speed that you draw it in certain parts, and when you start to put the brake on to end. Now, this handle does have some decorative molding on it, which is great because it gives us some lines inside the curve, so to speak, that we can use to hide some of our less accurate lines. Now we have to position the spout and get that in place. Now, the thing with an object such as this is some of the edges are fairly sharp and a line is a good way of representing them. But others, such as on this spout, have a more rounded edging to them. And so we need to indicate some element of thickness as well, if we possibly can. Now, with the spout, I start the decorative elements on this jug. And so now I've got these imprinted patterns to put on. Now, it was a fairly mass-produced jug, and so the patterns are the sort of patterns that were put on just with simple stamps that were stamped over and over again in some repeated way to form whatever the desired pattern is. So I want to create that feel of a fairly loose, rough pattern, which is great. It was an interesting example, this jug with the proportions, the effect of the pattern, the effect of those panels that come out, or subtly distort the overall effect of the jug for when we go to draw it without any pattern on it. My jug finished up being not quite long enough, and yet when I was drawing that first panel, it felt long enough, the one that I'm on now, when I started with that, but without the panels to the left or right and without any decoration on it. It seemed to be the right proportion, but it turned out to be not long enough. So trying to visualize early parts of our subject before we've got much to reference off, and particularly when they've got things on them. It might be a pattern, or it might be windows or architectural elements, depending on what we're drawing. It really can be tricky to sense the proportions when only part of it is there. So this is a very good exercise for that. And I suggest that if you're not happy with your proportions, that it's worth doing twice and to seek to better capture the actual shape of our jug. Now you'll see that with these symmetrical patterns, what I like to do is work correspondingly left and right at the same time. And of course we need to align where the symmetry is on both sides as well. All the time allowing for the perspective angles for things that line up on the horizontal. Now there's an appalling line I just do. I seem to do these quite regularly as I start to pay perhaps a little less attention, thinking, oh, I've pretty much finished this. I've done the most challenging parts. We really need to keep our attention in every part of our work up to the end. A little more decoration down the base here, and then just a bit more down this side. I'm drawing this with a Copic multi-liner, a 0.3mm pen. I ummed and ahed about the 0.2 or 0.3, and I decided to go for a slightly thicker line, a slightly blacker effect. And you're watching this at 1.5 speed. This took me about 12 minutes to do in real time. So it is a good little speed, a good little subject to do for one of these exercises, I think. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. I hope you found this interesting to watch, but I really do hope you find this even more interesting to have a go drawing yourself. The photo reference, of course, you'll find on my channel community page. So why not give it a go? Maybe get a cup of tea and pen and paper. But look, whatever you draw, however you draw it, whatever you might drink while you draw it, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.